Isang babae sa Russia natabunan ng debris matapos sumabog ang isang bahay.
Nakaligtas naman kaya babae mula sa nasabing insidente. Ang mga detalye ng balita ibabahagi maya-maya. Magandang gabi. Ako po si Rikki Mathay.
Ako si Rikki Alagao Flores. Ito ang mata ng Agila International. Para naman sa mga headlines ngayong araw ng Martes.
Malacanang handang ipa-freeze ang mga assets sa dating Pangulong Rodrigo Duterte kapag ipag-utos ito ng ICC.
Bilang ng mga nasa with house of rabies umabot sa higit 400 taong 2024.
G7 nations kinundina ang mapanganib na aksyon ng China sa Indo-Pacific region.
Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney binisita si King Charles sa Buckingham Palace.
At crew ng astronauts pauwi na sa Earth. Tiwala si Attorney Nicholas Kaufman, ang British-Israeli lawyer ni dating Pangulong Rodrigo Duterte, na maaabsuelto ito sa harap ng International Criminal Court or ICC.
Sa isang panayam may sinabi nito na kahit sa earliest stage ng ikinasong crimes against humanity ay maaakwit ang dating Pangulo. Ngunit tumanggi si Kaufman na tukuyin kung anong depensa ang kanilang ilalatag sa harapan ng mga hukom ng ICC. Samantala, inilabas si dating Executive Secretary Salvador Medialdea sa The Hague Penitentiary Institution. Isinakay siya ng ambulansya sa tulong ng isang medical team. Ayon sa Embahada ng Pilipinas, bibisita sana si Medialdea kay Duterte sa detention unit nang bigla itong manghina sa may reception center. Agad na tumawag ng medic ang Embahada para matulungan si Medialdea. Nang tanungin si Attorney Kaufman kung anong kalagayan ni Medialdea, ay tumanggi rin itong magpaliwanag. Pero sinagot niya ang tanong ng media ukol kay Duterte at sinabing nasa mabuti itong lagay at inaalaga ang mabuti sa loob ng detention center. Sinabi rin ng abogado na nangako siyang araw-araw bibisitahin ng dating Pangulo upang pag-usapan ang gagawin nilang depensa sa ICC.
Samantala, ipinabuhay na po ng Malacanang sa Anti-Money Laundering Council ang desisyon na ipa-freeze ang mga assets ni dating Pangulong Rodrigo Duterte sakaling ipag-utos ito ng International Criminal Court or ICC. Ang pag-freeze kasi ng mga assets ng dating Pangulo ay maaaring maging paraan para mabayaran ang sinasabing mga biktima ng crimes against humanity. Sinabi ni Presidential Communications Office Undersecretary Attorney Claire Castro na makikipagtulungan ng Anti-Money Laundering Council sa ICC hinggil sa nasabing issue.
Yes, but if there's a need for that, ang AMLAC walang sinisino. So kung kinakailangan po para po mabigyan ng reparation damages kung sino man ang masasabing na biktima, din kailangan pong ibigay ang hustisya.
Hiniling ni na dating Pangulong Rodrigo Duterte at Senador Ronald Bato de la Rosa sa Supreme Court na i-reconsider ang desisyon nito na hindi paglalabas ng Temporary Restraining Order o TRO. Ang pahayag na ito ni Duterte at de la Rosa ay kaugnay ng kanilang petisyon na naglalayong ipagbawal ang pakikipagtulungan ng gobyerno ng Pilipinas sa International Criminal Court o ICC. Inatasan din ng Korte ng respondents na personal na maghain ng kanilang mga komento sa loob ng non-extendable period of 10 days from notice.
The Supreme Court en banc, during its special session today, March 18, 2025, acted on the following matters. In the case of Rodrigo Roa Duterte and Senator Ronald de la Rosa versus Executive Secretary Lucas Bersamin et al. The Supreme Court noted without action the motion for reconsideration filed by former President Rodrigo Duterte and Senator Ronald de la Rosa regarding the court's denial of their prayer for the issuance of a temporary restraining order. The court ordered respondents to personally file their comment on the new matters raised in the supplement to the petition filed by petitioners within a non-extendable period of 10 days from receipt of notice.
Samantala, kinumpirma ni Senate President Francis Cheese Escudero na kahit nasa The Hague, the Netherlands, si Vice President Sara Duterte ay matutuloy ang paglilitis ng impeachment case nito. Nasa The Hague ngayon po ang bise dahil isa ito sa mga abogado ng kanyang ama, ang dating Pangulong Rodrigo Duterte sa International Criminal Court or ICC. Sinabi ni Escudero na hindi oobligahin ng Senado si VP Sara na dumalo sa kanyang impeachment trial at kung masusunod anyang schedule ng Senado ay posibleng matapos ang nasabing paglilitis sa loob ng 3 buwan.
Whether nagsabay, hindi nagsabay, wala namang nakasulat na batas na bawal magsabay. Hindi naman gano'n yan. Lalo na kung busy halimbawa si Vice President Duterte bilang isa sa mga abogado ng kanyang ama, hindi naman nga siya required mag-attend ng impeachment trial sa Senado, maliban na lang kung i-require siya ng impeachment court dahil kailangan siyang i-identify na sa tingin ko hindi naman siguro papasok sa isong ito dahil kilala naman siya ng lahat.
Hinikayat ng Malacanang si Solicitor General Menardo Guevara na suriin ang sarili kung may kakayahan pa itong maglingkod bilang top lawyer ng Office of the Solicitor General o OSG. Ito'y matapos magpasa ng motion and manifestation si Solgen Guevara sa Korte Suprema para sa recusal ng OSG, kung saan nanindigan si Solgen na walang jurisdiksyon ng International Criminal Court o ICC sa Pilipinas na siyang dahilan kaya walaan niyang legal obligation ng bansa na makipagtulungan sa ICC. Tumanggi rin ang OSG na tumayong abogado ng mga opisyal ng pamahalaan na sangkot sa pagkakaaresto kay dating Pangulong Rodrigo Duterte sa ICC.
Wala pa pong napag-uusapan dyan dahil napakabago po talaga nito. Lumabas lang po yata to kagabi. Pero siguro po mas maganda po kung mismo si Solgen ang mag-assess sa sarili niya kung siya pa po ba ay nararapat na tumayo bilang Solicitor General.
Samantala, sinabi ni Justice Secretary Crispin Remulla na ang Department of Justice o DOJ ang magdedepensa sa mga opisyal ng pamahalaan ng respondents sa habeas corpus petitions na inihain ng mga anak ni dating Pangulong Rodrigo Duterte sa Korte Suprema. Ayon kay Remulla, nabigyan na sila ng authorization ng Executive Secretary at hiniling na ng DOJ anya sa Korte Suprema na ibasura ang petisyon ng magkakapatid dahil sa pagiging moot o walang saysay at kawalan ng merito.
Nakapagtala po ang Department of Health ng 426 rabies-related death noong taong 2024. Dahil dito ay nanawagan ng Health Department sa publiko na pabakunahan ang mga alagang hayop kasama ng pagpapalawak ng kaalaman kaugnay ng rabies prevention. Tinukoy po ng DOJ na 45% sa mga kaso ay dahil sa kagat or exposure sa domestic pets, habang 41% naman ay dahil sa unvaccinated animals. Dagdag pa rito ang 56% sa mga sangkot na hayop ay may hindi tiyak na rabies vaccination status. Batay po sa datos ng Health Department, mula 2020 hanggang 2024, umaabot na sa kabuuang 1,750 rabies-related deaths ang naitala. Subalit, kahit nakamamatay ang rabies, sinabi naman ni Health Secretary Ted Herbosa na maaaring maiwasan pa rin ang sakit sa pamamagitan ng proper vaccination and responsible pet ownership. Ang rabies po ay maaaring makuha sa kagat, kalmot o kaya naman sa laway ng hayop na may rabies.
Sinibak sa pwesto si Metro Rail Transit 3 General Manager Oscar Bongon ayon sa Department of Transportation. Kinumpirma ni Presidential Communication Office Undersecretary Attorney Claire Castro na mayroon ang shortlist ng mga individual na maaaring pumalit kay Bongon. Anya, hinihintay na lamang ang confirmation ng Presidential Management Staff sa kung sino ang maaaring maging susunod na General Manager ng MRT3. Sa mga nakalipas na linggo, maraming mga naging aksidente sa estasyon, kabilang narito ang escalator incident sa Taft Avenue Station kung saan 10 pasahero ang nasaktan. Hindi naman nagbigay ng pahayag ang Transportation Department hinggil sa issue.
Iimbestigahan po ng Department of Agriculture or DA ang ulat na iilan lamang ang tumugon sa pagpapatupad ng maximum suggested retail price sa mga karne ng baboy. Sinabi ni ni Agriculture Assistant Secretary Arnel de Mesa. Nasa 20% sa 170 pork retailers ang sumunod lamang sa MSRP ng ahensya. Alinsunod po sa MSRP, hinihikayat ng Agriculture Department ang mga retailers na magbenta ng hindi tataas sa 380 pesos kada kilo ng liempo, habang ang pige naman at ham ay hindi tataas ng 350 pesos kada kilo. Paliwanag pa ni de Mesa, bagamat isang linggo na ang nakalilipas, ay maaaring magkaroon lamang ng adjustments ang ilang mga pamilihan. Layon po ng implementasyon ng MSRP sa karimbaboy na kontrolin ang pagtaas ng presyo nito sa bansa.
Nakahanda ang Armed Forces of the Philippines o AFP na magbigay ng tulong sa ikatlong civilian mission sa West Philippine Sea o WPS sa May 25. Kasunod dito ng pag-anunsyo ng Atin Ito Coalition na muli itong magsasagawa ng civilian mission sa WPS sa gitna ng tumataas na tensyon doon sa pagitan ng mga sasakyang pandagat ng Pilipinas at China. Pinuri ng Philippine Navy ang nasabing pagkilos ng civic group dahil sa pagpapakitaan nila nito ng pagsuporta sa paninindigan ng gobyerno sa WPS. Gayunman ay pinaalalahanan ng Philippine Navy na dapat ay magkaroon ng tamang koordinasyon ng nasabing civilian mission sa mga ahensya ng pamahalaan. Kung sakali rin nila na magsabay ang civilian mission sa planong pagpapatrolya ng gobyerno, ay mas maigi na gawin ito ng sabay sa parehong araw. Susunod, North Korea kinundena ang pag-atake ng US sa Yemen.
ICC pwedeng arestuhin din sina Putin at Netanyahu bukod pa kay Duterte.
At White House nagbabala sa Iran na seryosohin si Trump. Detalye ng mga balitang yan sa pagbabalik ng Mata ng Agila International.
Alam namin ang iyong pagsisikap. Dama namin ang iyong mga sakripisyo. Kita namin ang pagharap mo sa bawat pagsubok. Kaya sa kabila ng mga hamon ng buhay, nandito kami para umalalay. Kasi katulad mo, gusto rin namin ang magandang bukas para sa kanya. Hatid namin ang dekalidad na edukasyon at makabagong pasilidad sa abot kayang halaga. Kaya huwag ka nang mangamba. Sasamahan ka namin tuparin ang mga pangarap niya. Maaasahan mong sulit dito ang mga pinagsikapan mo. Sa aming mga makabagong pasilidad at sistema ng edukasyon. Mailalabas natin ang aking talino at mga kakayahan niya. Kahit sa munting halaga, makakasiguro ka na makakasabay siya sa mabilis na pag-ikot ng mundo. Sa new era, karamay mo kami sa bawat hamon. Kaagapay mo kami sa bawat hakbang. Kasama mo kami sa bawat ngiti at tagumpay.
Mariing kinondena ng Group of Seven o G7 nations ang iligal, mapanukso, mapanupil at mapanganib na aksyon ng China sa Indo-Pacific. Partikular na pinuntirya ng mga bansang pangaharas sa mga barko ng Pilipinas sa West Philippine Sea. Sa isang pahayag na inilabas ng Embahada ng Estados Unidos sa Maynila, binanggit nito na ang G7 ay seryosong nababahala sa pagtaas ng mga insidente ukol sa mapanganib na maniobra ng mga Chinese Coast Guard o CCG at paggamit ng mga ito ng water cannons laban sa mga sasakyang pandagat ng Pilipinas. Sa kanilang pagpupulong sa Charlevoix, Quebec, Canada, binatikos ng mga foreign ministers ng G7 ang mga hakbang ng China na pumipigil sa kalayaan sa paglalayag at paglipad na itinuturing nilang paglabag sa international law. Kanilang sinabi na we condemn China's illicit, provocative, coercive, and dangerous actions that seek unilaterally to alter the status quo in such a way as to risk undermining the stability of regions, including through land reclamations and building of outposts, as well as their use for military purpose. Nangako ang grupo na magtutulungan upang palakasin ang seguridad at katatagan sa Indo-Pacific habang muling pinagtibay ang kanilang paninindigan na panatilihin ang isang malaya, bukas at ligtas na rehiyon batay sa soberanya, integridad ng teritoryo, mapayapang resolusyon ng mga alitan at paggalang sa karapatang pantao. Ang G7 ay binubuo ng mga nangungunang bansang kagaya ng Canada, France, United States, Germany, Italy, Japan at United Kingdom.
Sinagot naman ng Chinese Foreign Ministry ang Group of 7 Nations kung saan iginiit ng China ang kanilang karapatan sa South China Sea dahil sa umano'y 10-dash line na ipinipilit ng China.
中国坚持走和平发展道路，坚定奉行防御性国防政策，始终把自身核力量维持在国家安全需要的最低水平。中国的国防开支是捍卫国家主权、安全、发展利益的需要，公开透明、合理适度。七国集团对美国核裁军责任和美英澳三边安全伙伴关系造成核扩散风险避而不谈，反倒拿中国说事儿，这是赤裸裸的双重标准。所谓中国产能过剩，已被事实证明是个伪命题。七国集团成员应当停止将经贸关系政治化、武器化，停止破坏国际经济秩序，冲击全球产供链稳定。中方敦促七国集团认清世界大势，摒弃冷战思维和意识形态偏见，停止损害中国主权、干涉中国内政，停止挑动冲突对抗、阵营对立，把精力放在应对全球挑战、促进全球发展等重大议题上，多做有利于国际社会团结合作的事。
Hanggang ngayon po ay patuloy na ipinipilit ng China ang kanilang soberanya sa naturang katubigan at sovereign island nation kung saan sinasabi nilang ginagawa lamang nilang basihan ang kanilang historical claims. Binuweltahan rin ito ng pahayag ng Grupo of 7 Nations kung saan sinabi nilang ang mismong G7 ang siyang nakakaapekto sa stabilization ng naturang rehiyon at tila bias daw ang nagiging pananaw ng ibang bansa ukol sa Asia.
七国集团外长会联合声明及有关宣言罔顾事实、颠倒黑白、污蔑抹黑中国、干涉中国内政，中方强烈不满，坚决反对，已向有关国家提出严正交涉。我要强调，台湾问题是中国核心利益中的核心，不容任何外部干涉。当前南海局势总体稳定，航行飞越自由，不存在任何问题。 七国集团应当停止搬弄是非、挑动争端。中方在乌克兰问题上一贯积极劝和促谈，从未向冲突任何一方提供致命性武器，严格管控军民两用物项。中方绝不接受七国集团甩锅推责。
Magkasabay na inanunsyo ng Chinese at South Korean Foreign Ministry ang pagkakaroon ng pagtitipon ng tatlong bansa sa Japan ngayong linggo.
조태열 장관은 제11차 한일중 외교장관 회의를 참석하기 위해 3월 21일부터 3월 22일까지 일본을 방문할 예정입니다.
Ayon sa Seoul, nakatakdang bisitahin ni South Korean Foreign Minister Choi Tae-yol ang kanyang mga kasamahan sa Japan at China na sina Takeshi Iwaya at Wang Yi sa Tokyo sa darating na Sabado. Tatalakayin ng tatlong bansa kung paano matutulungan ang kanilang grupong isa't isa mula noong huling trilateral summit na idinaos noong Mayo ng nakaraang taon. Nais din nilang maiboses ang kanilang sari-sariling posisyon sa mga major world events kasama na rin ang kasalukuyang sitwasyon sa naturang rehiyon.
이번 회의에서 3국 외교장관들은 작년 5월 개최된 제9차 한일중 정상회의 이후 3국 협력의 진전 상황을 평가하고 향후 3국 협력의 발전 방향과 지역 및 국제 정세 등에 대해 폭넓게 의견을 교환할 예정입니다.
Dagdag pa ni Cho, magsasagawa naman ito ng magkahiwalay na dialogo sa mga makakasama niyang bansa matapos ang kanilang trilateral meeting. Sinabi naman ni Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Mao Ning na layunin din ni Wang Yi na makausap si Iwaya para sa pang-anim na China-Japan High-Level Economic Dialogue.
中共中央政治局委员外交部长王毅将出席3月22日在日本东京举行的第11次中日韩外长会。在日本期间，还将同日本外相岩屋义共同主持第6次中日经济高层对话。
Kinundi na naman ng North Korea ang pagpapakawala ng missiles ng Estados Unidos laban sa Yemen. Matatandaan pong inutusan ni US President Donald Trump ang kanyang militar na maglunsad ng missile airstrikes sa grupong Houthi sa Red Sea. Subalit ayon sa KCNA, ang state media ng Pyongyang, ang pag-atake ng militar ng Estados Unidos ay isang marahas na paglabag sa UN Charter at maging sa international law. Tahas ang paglabag din nila sa soberanya ng ibang bansa at hindi kailanman makatwiran sa anumang paraan ang naturang hakbang ng US. Binigyan diin ni North Korean Ambassador Ma Dong-wi na may mga nadamay na sibilyan at mga ari-arian sa ginawang air and sea attacks ng Washington.
Sinabi ni former Australian Senator Janet Rice na ang pagkakaaresto kay dating Pangulong Rodrigo Duterte ay nagbibigay sa kanya ng pag-asa na marahil ay may natitira pang kapangyarihan sa international law. Katunayan anya ito na may ngipi ng international law na maaaring maging dahilan para maaresto sina Russian President Vladimir Putin at Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Tulad ni Duterte, sina Putin at Netanyahu ay mga subject din ng arrest warrant na inisyu ng International Criminal Court o ICC dahil sa umano'y genocidal attacks ng Russia at ng Israel. Gayunpaman, parehong ayaw kilalanin ng Russia at ng Israel ang otoridad ng ICC sa kanilang mga nanunungkulang lider.
Samantala, naging mainit ang ginawang pagtanggap ni King Charles kay Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney. Ito po ang unang pagbisita ni Carney sa labas ng bansa mula nang maupo bilang bagong Prime Minister matapos ang pagbibitiw ni Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. Tiniyak ni King Charles ang tulong na ibibigay nila sa Canada lalo na at nahaharap ito ng banta mula sa USA. Dagdag pa ni King Charles na noong nakaraang taon sana ay nakadalaw na ito sa Canada, subalit siya ay na-diagnose naman ng cancer. Magugunita pong nagkaroon ng trade war ang US at Canada kung saan pinatawan ni US President Donald Trump ng mataas na taripa ang mga produkto ng Canada. Matapos naman dito ay nagpulong sina McCartney at British Prime Minister Keir Starmer sa 10 Downing Street upang palakasin ang ugnayan ng dalawang bansa at patatagin ang kinabukasan ng kanilang alyansa sa harap ng mga krisis sa pandaigdigan at sa mga banta na America First agenda ni Donald Trump.
News. I take your point earlier on a number of our allies talking about our sovereignty today, but nobody's come out forcefully and said those comments about the 51st state are just not on. Do you think that our traditional allies are not sticking their necks out because they're concerned that if they say something that'll anger President Trump, that they'll be next?
I think I would take seriously what the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom said today. Look, I don't think one needs to respond to every comment about another country. Look, we can stand up for ourselves. Canada's strong. We can stand up for ourselves. We've called out those comments. They're disrespectful, they're not helpful, and they need to stop before, and they will have to stop before we sit down and have a conversation about our broader partnership with the United States.
Iginiit naman ito na hindi nila layuning gumawa ng isang coordinated attack upang himukin ang Estados Unidos sa isang trade war, subalit naghahanda ang Canada na magbaba ng pulisiya na magpapadala ng klarong mensahe sa kanilang karating na bansa. Inihag din po ni Prime Minister Carney ang pangangailangan ng Canada na i-diversify ang kanilang merkado at palawakin pa ang kanilang trade partnerships sa ibang mga bansa.
We take our own decisions with respect to our bilateral trade relationships with the United States. We're not trying to organize a coordinated retaliation. Other countries will take those decisions. For example, what we can do are a series of measures, and there are limits ultimately to this, but there's a series of measures that have maximum impact on the United States and minimum impact on Canada. Those measures that we take might have a different impact on the UK, on France. So, look, we don't look for that form of coordinated retaliation. That's not helpful necessarily to those countries, but it's not helpful to the overall process. What we're looking for with respect to the United States is to have a more comprehensive discussion of and negotiation of our overall commercial and security relationship. And when the United States is ready to have that conversation, we're more than ready to sit down. Nos relations commerciales sont trop concentrées aux États-Unis. Ce qui est clair est que nos relations sécuritaires sont trop concentrées aux États-Unis. Il faut diversifier, ça c'est clair.
Naglunsad ang Israel ng sunod-sunod na airstrike sa Gaza na ikinasawi ng mahigit 400 katao at ikinasakit naman ng 562 iba pa. Dahil dito, nanganganib ngayon ang ceasefire sa pagitan ng Israel at Hamas. Ayon sa Israel, layo ng pag-atake na pilitin ng Hamas na palayain ang 59 natitirang bihag mula pa noong October 7 ng nagdaang taon. Iniutos ni Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu ang mas matinding military operation matapos umanong tanggihan ng Hamas ang mga kasunduan sa ceasefire. Target ng airstrike sa mga tahanan at kampo ng mga sibilyan. Nagbabala naman ang militar ng Israel na maaaring lumawak pa ang kanilang pag-atake. Samantala, nanawagan naman ang Egypt na itigil na ang mga labanan ng dalawang bansa. Nagpahayag naman ang pagkabahala ang United Nations dahil sa patuloy na paglala ng karahasan sa Middle East.
Kumpirmado pong nahak ang dating phone number at email account ni Pangulong Claudia Sheinbaum ng Mexico. Alamin po natin ang mga detalye mula kay Assis Sakmar.
Lunes, kinumpirma ni Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum na kapwa na-hack ang dating phone number at email account nito.
Hackearon mi teléfono y mi cuenta de correo electrónico. Apple le llamó de inmediato a la Agencia de Transformación Digital. La Agencia de Transformación Digital de pronto, o sea, adecuadamente, la verdad, se dieron cuenta del hackeo. La Agencia de Transformación Digital tomó cartas en el asunto y pues muy rápido.
Sa kanyang regular press briefing, tinanong si Sheinbaum ukol sa isang report ng pag-hack ng numero ng Pangulo noong 27 ng Pebrero. Ito ay matapos i-transfer ang may 30 drug lords papuntang Estados Unidos. Ayon kay Sheinbaum, nagbabala naman ito ng malaman na hack nga ang kanyang telepono at email. Anya, luma na ang email account na iyon at hindi na nito ginagamit ang telepono para sa personal na komunikasyon. Ito, anya, ay ginagamit upang makausap ang kanyang mga taga-suporta.
Entonces el teléfono lo tiene muchísima gente que se quiere comunicar conmigo. Pero es un teléfono que ya no uso, digamos, para mi comunicación más personal, pues porque lo tiene todo mundo, tanto que salió en el periódico qué número de teléfono era, ¿no?
Dagdag ng Pangulo, hindi pa alam ng kanyang team kung sino ang nanghack sa mga ito, subalit iniimbestigahan na ang insidente. Ashley Sakmar para sa Mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Dinepensa ng White House ang pagpapadeport nito ng daan-daang Venezuelan gang members kamakailan sa kabila ng utos ng isang judge na huwag itong ituloy. Si Raisa mangilid para sa balita.
Pinangatwiran na ng White House noong Lunes ang hindi nitong pagsunod sa utos ng isang judge na huwag ituloy ang pagpapadeport ng daan-daang miyembro ng Venezuelan gang. Ayon kay White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt, ang aksyong ito ng administrasyon ay batay sa batas.
This administration acted within the confines of the law, again, within the president's constitutional authority and under the authority granted to him under the Alien Enemies Act. We are quite confident in that, and we are wholly confident that we are going to win this case in court.
Dagdag ni Leavitt, ginamit ni Pangulong Donald Trump ang otoridad nito sa ilalim ng Alien Enemies Act sa pagde-deport ng dayuhang terorista.
And as you saw this past weekend, the president used his authority under the Alien Enemies Act to deport foreign terrorists. Tren de Aragua is now a designated foreign terrorist organization. And as I said, there were nearly 200 Tren de Aragua members who were sent to El Salvador this weekend. Countless lives will be saved because of this action.
Sinabi ni Leavitt na kalipad na ang mga eroplanong lulan ang deportees bago pa pumasok sa korte ang written order ng judge noong Sabado. Anyang masayang sasagutin ng administrasyon anuman ang mga katanungan ng judge sa korte na yung araw. Ipinaliwanag ni Leavitt kung gaano kalaki ang matitipid ng US sa pagpapadeport sa mga ito kumpara sa kung mananatili sila sa kulungan sa Estados Unidos.
It was approximately $6 million to El Salvador for the detention of these foreign terrorists. And I would point out that is pennies on the dollar in comparison to the cost of life and the cost it would impose on the American taxpayer to house these terrorists in maximum security prisons here in the United States of America.
Raisa Mangilit para sa mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Ilang mga veterano sa Estados Unidos ang sumama na sa mga grupong hindi sumasang-ayon sa palakad ng Administrasyong Trump. Nagprotesta po ang mga ito sa Washington, D.C. at narito ang report ni Jonah Malyari.
Libo-libong mga veterano at mga taga-suporta nito ang nagtipon sa National Mall ng Washington, D.C. upang magprotesta laban kay Pangulong Donald Trump. Tinutuligsa ng mga demonstrador ang Pangulo at ang tagapayo nitong si Elon Musk. Gayon din ang pagsisante ng Department of Government Efficiency sa libu-libong mga empleyado ng gobyerno. Kasama sa mga nagsalita sa rally si dating Capitol Police Officer Harry Dunn na nagpapatrol noong January 6 attack sa US Capitol. Pinanawagan nito ang pag-alis kay Trump gamit ang isang constitutional clause.
Listen, I like to be very factual. What's the definition of insurrection? Anybody know? A violent uprising against the government. That's exactly what happened on January 6th. So how fitting on 3/14, we are here gathered. And there's a clause in the Constitution somewhere, 14.3, to remove Donald Trump. Let's get some people with some backbone to stand up and let's get that done.
Samantala, nananawagan naman si American opposition founder Carlos Alvarez Araños sa Republican at Democratic leaders na manindigan laban sa Pangulo.
There are Republicans in Congress who know what Donald Trump is. They know he's a danger to this nation. They know he is unfit to serve. They know he is a fraud, a criminal, and a coward. And yet, they stay silent. They stay silent because they fear his followers. They stay silent because they fear him. They stay silent because they've convinced themselves that someone else is going to fix this.
Ang protestang ito ay inorganisa ng isang grupong tinatawag na 14th Now, isang referensya sa 14th Amendment ng US Constitution. Ayon dito, pinili nila ang petsang March 14 o 314 bilang referensya sa Section 3 ng 14th Amendment na nagdidiskwalipika sa sino man na humawak ng posisyon kung nasangkot ito sa insureksyon. Nanawagan naman ang mga leader ng protesta sa mga nakipagrally na manatiling payapa. Walang insidente ng karahasan ang naiulat. Jonna Malari para sa mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Nagbanta ang Estados Unidos sa Iran na dapat nitong seryosohin ang babala ni Pangulong Donald Trump na mananagot ang Tehran sa anumang pag-atake ng grupong Houthi na sinusuportahan nito sa Yemen. Si NJ de Guzman para sa report.
Sa pagpapalawak ng Administrasyong Trump sa pinakamalaking operasyong militar ng US sa gitnang silangan mula nang magbalik ito sa pwesto, binigyan diin ng White House ang posisyon ng Pangulo sa Iran at hindi dapat ipagwalang bahala ito.
Our message to Iran is you better take this president seriously, and I think the Houthis learned that the hard way this past weekend. As I said in my opening remarks, there's a new sheriff in town, and this president is not just going to sit on his hands and allow terrorists to launch attacks on commercial vessels and U.S. naval ships. Those actions will not be tolerated.
Ayon sa Houthi-run Health Ministry, may 53 kataong namatay dahil sa paggandi ng US. 5 bata at 2 kababaihan ang kabilang sa mga biktima. 78 ang sugatan. Noong Lunes, nagpahayag ang tagapagsalita ng Houthis na si Yahya Sarria na tutugunan nito ang US airstrikes ng may eskalasyon.
شن العدو الأمريكي عدوانا سافرا على بلدنا خلال الساعات الماضية بأكثر من 47 غارة جوية استهدفت مناطق عدة في محافظات صنعاء وصعدة والبيضاء وحجة وضمار ومارب والجوف، وارتكب العدو الأمريكي عددا من المجازر، حيث أدى هذا العدوان إلى استشهاد وجرح العشرات في حصيلة غير نهائية. وردا على هذا العدوان نفذت القوات المسلحة بعون الله تعالى عملية عسكرية نوعية استهدفت من خلالها حاملة الطائرات الأمريكية USS هاري ترومان والقطع الحربية التابعة لها شمالي البحر الأحمر، وذلك ب18 صاروخا باليستيا ومجنحا وطائرة مسيرة.
Dagdag ni Sarria, bilang ganti, tatargetin ng Houthis ang lahat ng American warships sa Red Sea at sa Arabian Sea. NJ de Guzman para sa mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Susunod, plane crash sa Honduras, 7 patay.
Robot sa China tagumpay sa bag-front flip.
At Kim So-yun nawala ng brand deals dahil sa hinaharap na eskandalo. Mga detalye po ng mga balitang yan at iba pa mga balita sa pagbabalik ng Mata ng Agila International.
Ngayong Sabado, sa Motorcycle Republic.
Sa Saturday, pupunta tayo sa Amadeo para sa isang kakaibang coffee ride kasi hindi lang tayo iinom ng kape. Opportunity ito para mas may matutunan tayo tungkol sa proseso na pinagdadaanan ng kape. Samahan nyo kami sa ride namin ngayon. Enjoyin natin yung biyahe papunta doon at enjoyin din natin yung mga bagay na matututunan natin sa destination natin today.
Isasama namin kayo tuwing Sabado, 5 p.m. to 6 p.m.
Let's get together sa Net 25. Sa Net 25.
Pitong katao po ang namatay matapos bumagsak ang isang aircraft sa Honduras. Ayon sa lokal na ulat, may sakay na 14 na pasahero at 3 crew members ang aircraft bago maganap ang trahedya. Kinumpirma ng Honduras Transport Ministry na 10 sa lula ng aircraft ay nasagip ng rescue team. Anila, ilang oras sila na palutang-lutang sa baybayin. Inaalam ng mga otoridad ang dahilan ng plane crash. Hindi naman nagbigay ng pahayag ang Lance Airline na siyang may hawak sa bumagsak na Jetstream aircraft.
Isang fighter jet naman sa China ang biglang nag-nosedive at sumabog sa gitna ng isang training exercise. Ayon sa lokal na ulat, nangyari ang insidente sa Hainan Province nitong Sabado. Kinumpirma ng People's Liberation Army Navy Southern Theater Command na nakaligtas ang piloto ng fighter jet dahil matagumpay itong nakapag-eject mula sa aircraft. Isang Shenyang J-15 fighter jet ang pinaniniwala ang ginamit sa aerial drill. Ito ay isang prototype designs o isa sa mga prototype designs ng Sukhoi Su-33 ng Russia. Bagaman isang prototype ang aircraft, naniniwala ang China na makapagde-develop sila ng sarili nilang stealth aircraft mula sa mga unang trials.
Samantala po, isang babae sa Russia ang nakaligtas mula sa isang gas blast. Ayon sa lokal na ulat, naglalakad lamang ang babae sa kalsada nang may sumabog sa isang tirahan malapit sa lugar. Dahil po sa sobrang lakas ng pagsabog ay lumipad ang maraming debris sa lugar at dito na siya natabunan ng mga debris. Mapapansin po yan sa video na nakikita po natin ngayon, nakamuntikan din siyang maatrasan ng puting kotse. Sa kabila naman ng naging insidente ay kinaya pa ng babae na maglakad patungo sa isang ligtas na lugar.
Matapos ang 9 na buwang paghihintay para makauwi sa Earth, ay sa wakas tuloy na ang long-awaited trip back to Earth ni NASA astronauts Butch Wilmore at Sunita Williams. Sina Wilmore at Williams ay kabilang sa Crew 9 ng SpaceX kung saan kasama nila ang 2 pang astronauts. Ngayong Martes ay nagsuot ang Crew 9 ng spacesuit, boots at helmet bago sumakay sa re-entry capsule. Ang 2 astronauts ay dumating sa International Space Station noong 2024 sa pamamagitan ng Boeing Starliner. Pero dahil sa thruster malfunction sa Starliner, ay umabot ng ilang buwan ang kanilang pananatili sa space station sa halip ng inisyal na 10 araw lamang. Inaasahan na magtatagal ng 17 oras bago mag-splash down ang re-entry capsule ng Crew 9 sa Earth.
Samantala po, isang humanoid robot na binuo ng Chinese company na Engine AI ang matagumpay na nagpakita ng front flip sa isang demonstrasyon sa Shenzhen, Guangdong Province. Ipinakita ng robot ang dynamic balance and smooth landing na nagpapatunay na ito ay may high-speed dynamic capabilities. Mas mahirap po kasi ang front flip kaysa sa back flip dahil kailangan gumawa ito ng instantaneous acceleration and precise landing control. Layo ng Engine AI na mag-develop ng AI-powered humanoid robots para sa general-purpose AI bodies bilang solusyon sa mga industrial problems. Ang paglulunsad naman ng Engine AI ng kanilang robot ay isang pahiwatig na patuloy na lumalago ang humanoid robots industry sa China. Ayon po sa ulat ng 2024 World AI Conference, umabot na sa 2.76 billion yuan ang halaga ng robot market scale sa China. Inaasahan nga abot naman ito sa 75 billion yuan pagsabit ng 2029, nakatumbas ng 32.7% sa global market.
Muling pinatunayan ng 17 anyos na Australian sprinter na si Gout na siya pa rin ang pinakamabilis na 200-meter runner. Sa pagbagsak nito sa Queensland State Championship ay nagtala ito ng 20.05 seconds na pagtakbo. Ang nasabing oras ay mas mabagal ang nakuha niyang oras sa world record ng 0.01 second. Sa final ay siya ang tinanghal bilang kauna-unahang Australian na nakabasag ng 20-second barrier sa panalo nito ng 19.98 seconds. Sinabi nito na hindi siya makapaniwala na nakapagtala siya ng record sa kanilang bansa. Nitong Sabado ay nagwagi na rin ito sa under 21 100-meter title sa Queensland State Championship na mayroong 10.38 seconds.
Muli naman po gumawa ng kasaysayan si NBA superstar Stephen Curry bilang unang player na nakapagpasok ng 4,000 3-pointers. Nagawa ito ng 3-point Kings sa panalo ng Golden State Warriors kontra Sacramento Kings 130 and 104. Sa pagpasok ni Curry sa naturang laban, 2 3-pointer na lamang ang kanyang kailangan para maabot ang naturang record. Nagawa naman niyang magpasok ng 2-3 mula sa 6 na pinakawalan sa kabuuang laro. Sa kasaysayan po ng NBA, siya pa lamang ang nakakagawa ng 4,000 3-pointers habang ang sumusunod sa kanya ay mayroon lamang 3,127 3-pointers sa katauhan naman ni James Harden.
Nagkampiyon sa Indian Wells tennis si Mira Andreeva. Tinalo ng 17 taong gulang na manlalaro si Aryna Sabalenka sa scores na 2-6, 6-4, 6-3 sa California Desert. Siya ang pangatlong pinakabatang babaeng nagkampiyon sa nasabing torneo. Sinundan niya sina Martina Hingis noong 1998 at Serena Williams noong 1999. Nakuha rin niya ang kampyonato sa Dubai Open noong nakaraang 2 linggo. Ikinatuwa ng marami dahil sa bukod sa pinasalamatan nito ang mga fans, pamilya at coaching team ay pinasalamatan rin nito ang sarili. Dahil sa kanyang pagkapanalo ay umakyat si Andreeva sa top 3 sa Women's Tennis Association rankings.
Tinapos naman po ng ilang brands ang kanilang mga kontrata kay Kim Soo-hyun matapos pumutok ang ilang kontrobersya na may kinalaman sa yumaong aktresa si Kim Sae-ron. Fe Bakunawa para sa Scoop.
Kabilang sa mga brands na tumapos ng kontrata nila ay ang Prada, Dinto, Eider, Homeplus at iba pa. Nangyari ito matapos lumabas ang grooming allegations ng aktor na si Kim Soo-hyun sa aktres na si Kim Sae-ron. Sunod-sunod na ebidensya ang lumabas laban sa aktor. Ayon sa mga kamag-anak ng aktres, naging magkasintahan umano si Sae-ron at Soo-hyun sa loob ng 6 na taon. Nagsimula ang kanilang relasyon noong si Sae-ron ay 16 years old lamang at si Soo-hyun naman ay 27. Noong 2021, naghiwalay umano ang magkasintahan. Ang dalawa ay kabilang sa isang agency na gold medalist at sa taong 2022, umalis si Sae-ron sa naturang kumpanya. Taong 2022 rin nasangkot si Sae-ron sa isang driving under the influence case kung saan tinulungan siya ng kanyang dating ahensya sa legal fees at defense nito. Ngunit, noong 2024, ay nagbago ang mga pangyayari nang siningil si Sae-ron ng 700 million won na compensation. Humingi ng tulong ang aktres kay Soo-hyun na sana ay bigyan siya ng palugit upang makapag-ipon sana ng pambayad. Ngunit, hindi umano siya binibigyang pansin ng aktor. Sa gitna ng mga isyong ito, si Sae-ron ay namatay noong February 16, 2025 sa mismong kaarawan ni Soo-hyun. Pinabulaanan naman ng gold medalist ang grooming allegations laban sa aktor. Ayon sa kumpanya, naging magkasintahan umano ang dalawa noong 2019 hanggang 2020. Taliwas sa mga paratang na menor de edad pa ang aktres nang magsimula ang kanilang relasyon. Fe Bakunawa, reporting for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
It's a wrap para sa K-pop girl group na aespa nang matapos ang kanilang second world tour na Sync Parallel Line. Nagsimula ang world tour ng aespa noong June 2024 at sila ay nagkaroon ng 41 shows sa iba't ibang bahagi ng mundo, kabilang na ang Tokyo, Singapore, Sydney, Los Angeles at Paris. Nitong weekend ay ginanap ang finale show ng world tour ng girl group sa KSPO Dome sa Seoul, South Korea. Ang kanilang encore concert ay dinaluhan ng libu-libong fans at pati na rin ang ilang sikat na mga Korean celebrities. Kasama sa mga dumalo, si G-Dragon ng Big Bang, Korean actress Kim Ji-won na lumabas sa tampok ng Korean drama na Queen of Tears, BTS Jungkook, Jihyo at Nayeon ng Twice at si Siwon ng Super Junior at marami pang iba. Patuloy naman na umaasa ang Filipino fans ng aespa na muling makabibisita ang girl group sa Pilipinas sa mga susunod na pagkakataon. Huling nag-perform ang aespa sa bansa para sa K-Verse concert taong 2023.
Inilabas na po ng DreamWorks Animation ang opisyal na teaser trailer ng pelikulang Shrek 5. Zaira Castillo para sa balitang yan.
Sa darating na December 2026 ay muling magbabalik sa takilya ang Shrek para sa ikalimang yugto ng kilalang pelikula. Kasabay nito ang muling pagsasabuhay ng mga karakter nila Mike Myers bilang Shrek, Cameron Diaz bilang Fiona, Eddie Murphy bilang Donkey, at isa sa mga pinakamalaking artista ngayon na si Zendaya bilang Felicia na anak ni na Shrek at Fiona. Makikita sa teaser ang panonood ng mga karakter kasama si Pinocchio ng maiikling video ni Shrek na tila sumasabay sa uso sa panahon ngayon. Umani naman ng iba't ibang reaksyon mula sa publiko ang teaser. Partikular ay tungkol sa animation at kwento nito. Ayon sa ilang viewers, nakakapanibago at ibang-iba ang animation style ng pelikula kumpara sa mga naunang bersyon nito. Tila hindi naging kaaya-aya ang bagong disenyo at malayo na ito sa orihinal na itsura ng mga karakter. Sa kabila ng mga ito, may mga nagsasabing ito ay patunay lamang na lumalago na ang teknolohiyang pang-animation at hindi lamang sanay ang ilang mga manonood. Batay din sa iba, ang pagdaragdag sa kwento ng pagkakaroon ng maiikling video na parang TikTok trends ay hindi tiyak na makakatulong sa tagumpay ng pelikula. Gayunpaman, may mga haka-haka na ang pagbabagong ito ay dahil maaaring hango sa point of view ni Puss in Boots ang bagong pelikula. Matatandaan na ipinalabas sa takilya ang Puss in Boots The Last Wish noong 2022. Tampok dito ang kwento ni Puss na napagtanto niyang siya ay nasa huling yugto na ng kanyang buhay. Kaya siya ay naglakbay upang mahanap ang kanyang tunay na ninanais. Zaira Castillo para sa mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Itinanghal po ng Time Out ang New Orleans bilang world's best city for food dahil sa kanilang natatayang culinary blend of French, Spanish, Vietnamese, and African influences. Ito ay matitikman sa mga pagkain nila katulad ng jumbo and jambalaya. Pumangalawa naman ang Bangkok, Thailand na kilala sa kanilang glorious food scene katulad na lang ng Gagan Anand na Michelin-starred fine dining restaurant hanggang sa pamilihan ng murang street food sa halagang $3 lamang. Nasa ikatlong pwesto ang Medellina, Colombia na nagpapahanga sa Time Out readers sa affordability at murang kape. Nasa fourth spot po ang Cape Town, South Africa na gustong-gusto ng mga locals dahil sa diverse food na babagay sa panlasa ng mga tao, lalo na po pagdating sa seafood, ha? Nasa fifth spot naman ang Madrid dahil kanila ang Madrileños diverse and experimental ang kanilang mga pagkain. Sa mga nagdaang taon, ang Mexico City ay nasa 6th spot na top destinations ng mga international foodies dahil sa kanilang culinary diversity at mataas na food quality. Samantala, nasa 7th spot po ang Lagos, Nigeria dahil sa kanilang jollof rice and smoky suya. 8th spot, sino po ba nandyan? Siyempre, walang iba kundi ang Shanghai, China dahil sa kanilang 1,000 taon na food history. At samantala, ang France ay nasa 9th spot dahil sa hot cuisine nito habang ang Jakarta naman ay nasungkit ang 10th spot na minsan nang ipinakilala ang kanilang pagkain na rendang bilang pinakamasarap na pagkain sa mundo. Mula po sa rich flavors ng New Orleans hanggang sa diverse food culture ng Jakarta, ipinapakita nito ang pagkakakilanlan ng isang lugar mula sa inihahanda nilang mga pagkain. At narito po kami para maghatid ng balita sa amang dako ng mundo. Magandang gabi po, ako po muli si Rikki Mathay.
Ako si Nina Rikki, Alagao, Flores. Ito pa rin ang mata ng Agila International. Para naman po sa iba pang mga balitang nanggaling din sa iba't ibang panig ng mundo, punta tayo kay Alma Angeles para sa mata ng Agila World News. Take it away, Alma.
Thank you, Nina and Rikki. Good evening, everyone. I'm Alma Angeles for Net25 World News. On tonight's headlines. Former Philippine President Rodrigo Duterte is currently under medical supervision at the clinic inside the International Criminal Court's detention facility in The Hague.
Okay naman siya. He's in very high spirits. Ano lang siya, naiisip niya mga sumusuporta sa kanya. Nagpapasalamat siya sa inyong lahat.
And the news starts now. Former Philippine President Rodrigo Duterte is currently under medical supervision at the clinic inside the International Criminal Court's detention facility in The Hague. Here's more. His lawyer, Harry Roque, shared his update recently. Since Duterte was transferred into ICC custody, only a handful of people have been allowed to visit him. And these include his daughter, Vice President Sara Duterte, and former Executive Secretary Salvador Medaldea.
So ES, kamusta po ang ating presidente?
Magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat. Okay naman siya. He's in very high spirits. Ano lang siya, naiisip niya mga sumusuporta sa kanya. Nagpapasalamat siya sa inyong lahat. Isa sa medyo namimiss niya yung kanyang usual na kinakain, yung tuyo, yung munggo, at higit sa lahat, yung piniritong saging. Yun ang nawawala sa kanya. Other than that, he's okay.
Medaldea is the only person officially approved by the pretrial chamber to represent Duterte legally. However, Roque and British lawyer Nicholas Kaufman are also trying to join Duterte's legal team. Kaufman has a strong background, having worked as a prosecutor at the ICC and the International Criminal Tribunal for the former Yugoslavia. He even defended Ivorian politician Charles Blegode, who was later acquitted of crimes against humanity charges.
I cannot come home. I have to defend my president as a member of the List Council of the ICC at The Hague. Yan naman po ay alam na ng lahat na sa mula't mula. I've already been advising the president on ICC even when I was POX, and I can confirm that as early as 2019, I've been advising him on ICC matters. So, kinailangan po kami maghiwa-hiwalay as a law office and as legal partners. No? So, I'm sorry, I cannot come home. I have to defend my president.
In a surprising turn of events, Harry Roque announced during a press conference that he plans to apply for asylum in the Netherlands. Once his application is submitted, he'll have the right to stay in the country until his eligibility for asylum is decided.
Well, I'm formally announcing that after our meeting today, I'm filing formally for asylum here at the Netherlands. As soon as my application of asylum is received, I do have the rights to non-refoulement. Non-refoulement under international law means, number one, non-deportation until matapos yung investigasyon if I'm entitled to asylum status, and number two, non-prosecution for illegal entry. Pero legal naman ang pagpasok ko dahil meron akong visa. No?
This decision comes as Roque faces legal challenges back in the Philippines. He's implicated in a human trafficking case related to the Pogo Hub Lucky South 99 Corp. And has a standing arrest order from the House of Representatives for contempt. Roque claims he cannot return to the Philippines and must stay in the Netherlands to continue defending Duterte at the ICC. Roque is confident that he can prove political persecution.
Pero naniniwala ako na yung warrant of arrest ng Kamara de Representante ng WAD Committee ay mapapatunay ng unjust prosecution. Kasi dito sa Europa, unheard of yung isang warrant of arrest na indefinite ang lifetime, number one. Number two, walang bail. So, at number three, malinaw naman yan na ito isang investigasyon sa Pogo na nais nilang talagang i-link si dating Presidente Rodrigo Roa Duterte, no? At malinaw na sa tingin ko ang political motivation behind the investigation on the Pogo dahil ang sinasabi ng WAD Committee, si Presidente raw ang nag-legalize ng operation ng Pogo even if it has always been there, no? Since time pa ng Aquino government, no? So I'm confident. I am confident that I can prove political persecution through unjust prosecution ng WAD Committee.
Unang-una po, magpapile pa lang po yata siya ng petition at hindi pa naman po ito nag-grant. Tandaan po natin, bago po ito mag-grant, dapat mapalabas niya po na may well-founded fear of political persecution. Tandaan din po natin na mga ebidensyang nakalap ng PAOK at that time ay bigla na lang lumapag sa harapan ng PAOK without even any effort. Nakita lang po itong mga dokumentong to, bank documents ni Attorney Harry Roque sa Lucky South 99. So how could there be a political persecution if all the pieces of evidence are overwhelming?
Significant developments in the ongoing saga surrounding former President Rodrigo Duterte. The Office of the Solicitor General, or OSG, has decided to step aside from representing government officials in cases related to Duterte's arrest. The reason behind this move is the OSG's strong belief that the International Criminal Court, or ICC, doesn't have jurisdiction over the Philippines. And this stance aligns with the government's long-held policy. The OSG made this decision official by filing a manifestation and motion with the Supreme Court. Now, this development is expected to deepen the legal and diplomatic divide over the ICC's authority and its arrest warrant for Duterte. At the heart of the OSG's argument is the Philippines' withdrawal from the Rome Statute, the treaty that established the ICC. The country officially notified the UN of its withdrawal in 2018, and it took full effect on March 27, 2019. And since then, the OSG has consistently maintained that the ICC shouldn't be involved in Philippine affairs, insisting that any investigations or legal actions against Duterte should be handled within the country's own judicial system. However, Malacanang has clarified that the OSG's decision doesn't mean it opposes cooperation with the International Criminal Police Organization, or Interpol. Let's listen in.
Ginagamit po kasi ito ng ibang mga partido na di umanong naniniwala ang SOLGEN na may kamalian sa ginawa ng pamahalaan sa pakikipagtulungan sa Interpol. Maliwanag po kung inyong nabasa ang manifestation po ni SOLGEN, Maynardo Guevara. Binanggit lamang po niya na siya po ay naniniwala na walang jurisdiksyon ang ICC sa Pilipinas. Yan din naman po ang tinura noon pa ng Pangulo. Pero hindi po niya nabanggit kailanman sa kanya manifestation na mali ang pakikipagtulungan ng gobyerno sa Interpol. Yun po. So, kung hindi po niya kakayanin ipagtanggol ang gobyerno, ang mga opisyal po ng gobyerno na tumugon sa Interpol, siguro sa kanya pong damdamin lamang po yun. When in fact, it's very clear from the statements, from the statement of Sergeant Guevara that he's only discussing about the jurisdiction of the ICC. And that is also the pronouncement of the President that the ICC has no more jurisdiction over the Philippines. So there's nothing wrong with that. But never did Mr. Solgen mention that he is against the cooperation of the government with the Interpol. So how could it be used against the government?
Philippine Vice President Sara Duterte has asked the Supreme Court to nullify an impeachment complaint against her, making her first legal move to fight the case that could lead to her removal and lead to a lifetime ban from public office. The lower house impeached Duterte on February 5 on accusations such as budget anomalies, amassing unusual wealth, and an alleged threat to the lives of Philippine President Ferdinand Marcos Jr., the First Lady, and the House Speaker. The daughter of the country's firebrand former leader, Duterte, is seen as a strong candidate for the 2028
presidential election. Now, she has repeatedly denied wrongdoing, saying the move to impeach her amidst a bitter rift with Marcos was politically motivated. In a petition to the Supreme Court, Duterte accused the lower house of grave abuse of discretion when it deliberately circumvented a constitutional safeguard against more than one impeachment proceeding against the same official within a year. This political stratagem was done at the expense of constitutional standards, with the ultimate goal of having the petitioner perpetually disqualified from running for any national elective office, she added in Tuesday's petition. Duterte also asked the court to stop the upper house from proceeding with the impeachment trial, which the Senate president has previously indicated could start in June, following midterm elections in May.
Kung masusunod yung mga pre-trial arrangements, mas magiging mabilis yung pagdinig, and hopefully bago kami mag-recess sa loob ng 3 buwan, ay kaya nang tapusin yung impeachment trial. So, papalo sa petsa yun, dahil usually nag-adjourn ng Senado bago mag-October 10. So, kung September 23, yung trial, halos yung panahon yun. Pero wala namang ugnayan yun eh. Whether nagsabay, hindi nagsabay, wala namang nakasulat na batas na bawal magsabay, hindi naman gano'n yun. Lalo na, kung busy halimbawa si Vice President Duterte bilang isa sa mga abogado ng kanyang ama, hindi naman nga siya required mag-attend ng impeachment trial sa Senado, maliban na lang kung i-require siya ng impeachment court dahil kailangan siyang i-identify na sa tingin ko hindi naman siguro papasok sa isong ito dahil kilala naman siya ng lahat.
The 24 senators of the upper house will serve as jurors in the impeachment trial that could lead to Duterte's removal from office and a lifetime ban from public posts, which would kill off any hope of becoming president. A devastating wave of Israeli airstrikes has struck Gaza, killing at least 200 people, according to Palestinian health authorities. Here's more. The attacks, which hit multiple locations across the Gaza Strip, including Gaza City, Deir al-Bala, Khan Yunis, and Rafah, have shattered the fragile ceasefire that had been in place since January. Hamas has condemned these actions, accusing Israel of breaching the ceasefire agreement. The strikes have resulted in significant casualties, with many children among the dead.
Almost the entire family was martyred, all of them in pieces, and our house collapsed on us. Our house is directly next to theirs. There are also injuries at the Satari house. They are still pulling people out from under the rubble. We were sleeping just before Suhoor, and the house almost fell on us.
The Israeli military has stated that these operations will continue as necessary, raising concerns that ground troops may soon be involved. The U.S. administration was informed of the strikes beforehand.
Well, the Trump administration and the White House were consulted by the Israelis on their attacks in Gaza tonight. And as President Trump has made it clear, Hamas, the Houthis, Iran, all those who seek to terrorize not just Israel, but also the United States of America, will see a price to pay. All hell will break loose.
Israel's military targeted Hamas commanders, leadership officials, and infrastructure. And the attacks come after stalled negotiations in Doha, where Egyptian and Qatari mediators were trying to bridge the gap between Israel and Hamas. Israel has been pushing for the return of 59 remaining hostages held in Gaza in exchange for a longer-term truce.
The Israeli Air Force initiated a series of attacks against Hamas targets in Gaza. We will show no mercy on our enemies. Let me be very clear. Israel will not stop until all of our hostages are back home.
However, Hamas insisted on negotiating a permanent end to the war and a full Israeli withdrawal from Gaza as per the original ceasefire terms. A dramatic showdown is unfolding in Washington as a U.S. federal judge demands answers from the Trump administration over the deportation of hundreds of Venezuelans. Take a look.
A U.S. judge on Monday ordered the Trump administration to give details about the hundreds of Venezuelans it had deported, despite that judge blocking them from doing so. Judge James Boasberg also gave the administration until Tuesday to explain why it believed it had complied with his order. The White House said the more than 200 Venezuelans deported to El Salvador were members of the Tren de Aragua gang. The deportations happened over the weekend, many under an 18th century law known as the Alien Enemies Act, historically used only in wartime.
Sir, there's been some criticism that the Alien Enemies Act has only been invoked 3 other times. They were all during times of war. Do you feel that you're using it appropriately right now?
Well, this is a time of war because Biden allowed millions of people, many of them criminals, many of them at the highest level. In many respects, it's more dangerous than war because, you know, in war they have uniforms. You know who you're shooting at. You know who you're going at.
Lee Gallant, a lawyer at the American Civil Liberties Union, spoke to reporters after Monday's hearing.
We had serious concerns going into the day that the government violated a federal court order. Today did nothing to dispel it. If anything, it reinforced that our view that the government may very well have violated this order, perhaps even knowingly violated. The president is simply thumbing his nose at Congress. Congress has said when you can use the Alien Enemies Act.
Also on Monday, White House spokesperson Caroline Leavitt defended the administration's move.
This administration acted within the confines of the law, again, within the president's constitutional authority and under the authority granted to him under the Alien Enemies Act.
Monday's hearing followed a request by the government to remove the judge from the case. And shortly prior to the hearing, the Trump administration said the judge's directive to return any planes carrying the migrants was not enforceable because it was not in a written order. The administration also said it did not violate a subsequent written order because the planes had already departed when it was issued. Several legal experts interviewed by Reuters viewed the flights as a direct challenge to the judicial branch's independence.
It doesn't matter in these cases whether the planes were over international waters or not. The defendants, President Trump, the Secretary of Homeland Security, those folks were all within D.C. and so subject to federal jurisdiction. The larger issue is the Trump administration seems invested in making this a fight. And that really does raise this huge question of what happens if the executive branch can get away with defying court orders. I don't think, non-compliance with one order in one case is necessarily the end of the rule of law. But the question is, what is to compel the government to comply in future cases? Because in a world in which the government can pick and choose which court orders it wants to comply with, the law is going to mean whatever the president says, not whatever the courts say.
Meanwhile, the president of Venezuela's National Assembly, Jorge Rodriguez, said the deported men were denied due process by the U.S.
What's happening in El Salvador with the Venezuelans is nothing other than a vulgar kidnapping. None of the Venezuelans brought to El Salvador have committed absolutely any crime in El Salvador, so how come they are there? Nor have they committed any crime, or at least, it has not been proven otherwise, in the U.S. They have been denied the right to due process. They have even been denied the chance to speak to any judge.
Since taking office in January, Trump has sought to push the boundaries of executive power, cutting spending authorized by Congress, dismantling agencies, and firing tens of thousands of federal workers.
Eggs have transformed from a humble breakfast staple to a symbol of desperation, with smuggling attempts reaching record highs. The reason, soaring prices have pushed the cost of a dozen eggs past $10 in some U.S. cities. Take a look.
Our online inquiries have been filling up more than ever. People are very interested in being able to have backyard hens for fresh eggs. Then they don't have to worry about the price of eggs at the store, and they don't have to worry about if there are eggs at the store or not. We've been through this previously, and the price of eggs always seems to even out. They come back down, but it takes a while because it does take 4 to 6 months for a baby chick to grow up to start laying eggs.
Travelers are resorting to creative methods to smuggle eggs across borders, hiding them in car compartments or under blankets, hoping to evade border agents. However, the U.S. government is not backing down. Instead, it's now intensifying investigations and imposing tariffs to combat this illicit trade. Egg prices have skyrocketed to an average of $5.90 per dozen, nearly double last year's price of $3. Meanwhile, in Mexico, a dozen eggs can be purchased for as little as $2, fueling a thriving underground market.
Eggs, you need them for so many things, for so many recipes, for baking, and lots of people just eat them just for breakfast, but you find out that you need them for so many other things. And it's just a staple, like milk or bread.
The U.S. Customs and Border Protection reports a significant increase in egg interceptions, with over 90 individuals caught attempting to bring eggs into El Paso, Texas, between January and February. The avian flu outbreak is the primary driver behind the egg shortage and price surge. Millions of birds have been culled, leaving store shelves bare and driving up demand. And as a result, shoppers are hoarding eggs, further exacerbating the shortage.
The profit margin is very slim. I have to buy, the feed is so expensive, and just the cost of maintaining the facilities and everything else, there's not a lot of money in it.
The U.S. Department of Justice is investigating potential price gouging by large egg producers.
I've had to ask people to keep it to 2 dozen because I'm afraid some people have been coming in and buying all the eggs and then reselling them, which is not really fair to the other customers that come in and then there's nothing for them.
The Department of Agriculture has invested $1 billion to address the crisis, with $500 million focused on farm biosecurity. However, the government warns that illegal imports pose significant health risks. Adding fuel to the fire, the Trump administration has imposed a 25% tariff on egg imports from Mexico and Canada. In 2023, Canada exported $44 million worth of eggs to the U.S., and Mexico exported $1.54 million. With fines in place and tariffs looming, the egg smuggling saga is far from over. This unexpected black market obsession highlights the desperation of consumers and the challenges facing the U.S. egg market. Indonesia has begun repatriating hundreds of its citizens who were rescued from online scam compounds in Myanmar. This is the largest batch of arrivals following a multinational crackdown on these illegal operations. A total of 554 Indonesians are expected to arrive in Jakarta over Tuesday and Wednesday, traveling from Miyawadi via Thailand. Upon arrival, they will be taken to a facility typically used for Hajj pilgrims, where police will question them to determine if they were victims or perpetrators of the scams. Many of these individuals suffered severe treatment, including beatings, electrocution, and threats of organ removal if they failed to meet targets set by the criminal groups. The scam centers in Myanmar are part of a broader network across Southeast Asia involving the trafficking of hundreds of thousands of people to generate billions of dollars annually. The UN estimates that these scams have resulted in significant financial losses with minimal government intervention until recently.
Para korban yang merupakan pekerja warga negara.
The victims, who are Indonesian workers, have been subjected to various pressures and physical violence, such as beatings and electrocution, and were even threatened to have their organs removed if the targets given by the cartels or dealers are not met.
The crackdown was intensified after a high-profile case involving a Chinese actor who was trafficked to Myanmar. Meanwhile, the humanitarian situation in Myanmar continues to deteriorate due to cuts in U.S. aid and ongoing violence by the military junta. The UN has warned that these cuts are exacerbating an already dire situation with increased airstrikes and violence.
But just when Myanmar wondered if conditions could get any worse, they are now becoming exponentially worse. And this is not because of the military junta. It is because of us, the international community. The sudden, chaotic withdrawal of support, principally by the government of the United States, is already having a crushing impact on the people of Myanmar. The abrupt termination of this support is going to kill them. Untold numbers of people, including children, You know, I've talked to people who suddenly have life-saving programs that have been stopped, terminated. You know, we have HIV patients who have been missing their medications for now 7 weeks. Tuberculosis patients. This is just a catastrophe that is unfolding.
The Australian Foreign Minister Penny Wong has expressed deep concern over anonymous letters sent to residents in Melbourne, offering a substantial reward for information about Kevin Yam, a Hong Kong pro-democracy activist and Australian citizen. The letters, which promised 1 million Hong Kong dollars, were reportedly mailed from Hong Kong and included contact details for the Hong Kong police. Kevin Yam is wanted by Hong Kong authorities for his involvement in organizing anti-government protests in 2019.
The Australian government does not accept other governments interfering with our citizens, making anybody feel unsafe. We expect our citizens to be respected, and we stand firm against any foreign interference and against any infringement of our sovereignty. We will make and have been making appropriate representations since this was alerted to us. Those representations are being made in the usual way through the diplomatic arrangements. I'll await whatever investigations come to light. But I have made my view about Australians being targeted by the Hong Kong authorities very clear to both Hong Kong and to China.
First of all, Hong Kong affairs are purely China's internal affairs and no external forces are allowed to interfere. China urges Australia to earnestly respect China's sovereignty and the rule of law in Hong Kong and create good conditions and atmosphere for the sustainable development of China-Australia relations. China expresses strong dissatisfaction and resolute opposition to Australia's blatant interference in the rule of law in the Hong Kong Special Administrative Region.
And the news continues here on Net 25. We'll be right back.
Ang mga maiinit na balita at rumaratsyad ng usapan ng bayan, ihahatid namin sa 100%! 100% ang pagbabalita! 100% talakayan! Lunes hanggang Biyernes! Alas 5 hanggang alas 7 ng umaga! Live na live sa Radyo Agila 1062 Mega Manila! At sa Net 25! 100%!
Sa Net 25, let's live together. Sa Net 25.
In London, following meetings with British and French leaders, Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney has called on U.S. President Donald Trump to end his disrespectful comments. And this comes as Trump threatens tariffs and muses about making Canada the 51st U.S. state, putting future trade talks in jeopardy. Here's more.
Today, I don't think one needs to respond to every comment about another country. Look, we can stand up for ourselves. It's Canada strong. We can stand up for ourselves. We've called out those comments. They're disrespectful. They're not helpful. And they need to stop before, and they will have to stop before we sit down and have a conversation about our broader partnership with the United States. We take our own decisions with respect to our bilateral trade relationships with the United States. We're not trying to organize a coordinated retaliation. Other countries will take those decisions. For example, what we can do are a series of measures, and there are limits ultimately to this, but there's a series of measures that have maximum impact on the United States and minimum impact on Canada.
Canada officially will soon have a prime minister as Canada's Liberal Party elected Mark Carney. This election was prompted by Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's resignation last January. Mark Carney was a former governor of the Bank of Canada in 2008 and the Bank of England in 2013. He is also serving as the UN Special Envoy for Climate Action and Finance. He has never been elected to public office.
It is my honor to respond to the Governor General's request that I form a government. And it's a solemn duty to serve as Prime Minister at this time of great consequence for our country.
Since Carney's win, the Liberal Party has gained more popularity and support based on recent polls against the previously dominant Conservative Party, led by Pierre Poilievre, whose rhetoric has been similarly compared to Trump's. Carney is known and has been very vocal on his defiance against Trump.
Personally, I've been clear. The ministers behind me, I think to an individual, when asked, have been clear that we will never, ever, in any way, shape, or form, be part of the United States.
Chantal Santos, Toronto, Ontario, for Net25 World News.
And with that, we end tonight's broadcast. For everyone here on Net25, I'm Alma Angeles. Thank you for joining us. Good night.